Good evening, everyone. My name is Abhi, and before I start, I would like to thank everybody for coming to our exhibition and to my aisle transition speech. And I'd also like to thank my family, my friends, and my teachers, past and present. I couldn't have done it without you. When I first came to KLS, I was excited, to say the least. Having come from a more traditional environment, I was eager to prove myself. And I had never had this much freedom in my schedule. And since my parents had talked to me a little bit and informed me a little bit about the way the school works beforehand, I started developing many passions very quickly, such as one for the Rubik's Cube, and perhaps most influentially throughout the past few years, one for computer programming. The first term at KLS was one of my best. Aside from achieving all my goals, I also grew my passion for computer science and started developing 2D games with Python and Pygame, and then moved on to developing 3D games with a library called OpenGL. However, unfortunately, the success did not carry into term 2. So I have a few theories on why that happened, but they all follow the same story. After term 1, having been successful, I had this idea in my head that I could do anything. And what I chose to do was set ridiculously advanced goals for a short term. So normally when you're at KLS, what do you do when you don't achieve your goals? Well, you think about it and then you set more achievable goals, and you work with your advisor on new ways to achieve those goals. That's not what I did. What I did was I doubled the amount of work that I had for an even shorter term 3. This went on for a few terms, and then by the end of the school year, it occurred to me that I wasn't going to meet my KA Math and English Language Arts goals. So, as mentioned, this was when the new school year was starting, and I didn't know what to expect with our new advisor, Mickey McMillan, since I had few previous interactions with her. As it turns out, she was an amazing advisor who taught us a little bit of necessary discipline in order to have a great year with us. However, I was slow to learn my lessons, so term 1 was, in essence, another term of, well, not meeting my goals. It wasn't all not meeting my goals. I got back up to speed on my KA Math, and I also grew up my passion for computer science more. However, one stumbling block, which maybe a lot of students here can relate to, was Newsella opinion sheets. So for those of you who don't know, Newsella is a website that takes articles from other sources such as the Washington Post or the New York Times and adapts them for our students of all ages. We read these articles and then we write what are called opinion sheets, which basically forces us to think critically about what we're reading and do some analysis. I had a really terrible strategy for Newsella, which was when I didn't achieve my Newsella goal for the week, I would double the amount of work that I had to do for the next week and slap on the work that I didn't complete for that week. So by the midpoint of term 1, I was literally dozens and dozens and dozens of Newsella opinion sheets behind my goal. Needless to say, I did not complete my 40 Newsella opinion sheets for that day. And I finally learned my lesson. And I'm here to share with you guys some of those lessons today. So the first one is set achievable goals. So this is probably like one of the biggest takeaways from this school as a whole. So a lot of people would think you shouldn't set your goals too low because then you won't achieve that much. That's obvious. But what a lot of people don't realize is it's just as dangerous to set goals that are unachievable because they're too complex. Because two things will happen. One is schoolwork will consume your life, literally. And the second thing that will happen is you will actually procrastinate more because your motivation will move down because you'll realize how much work you have to do. Okay, the second lesson I have is persevere, persevere, persevere. So when you start an ambitious goal, which you should set for your passions, you have a lot of self-doubt that starts to creep into you. And I'm going to tell you right now, don't listen to any of that self-doubt. You can do anything. The way that I rationalize it is, if you have a goal and you have a path to achieving that goal, and you're willing to put in any necessary effort, you can achieve anything. Okay, a personal example of this is during the first few terms, actually, this year, I wanted to learn how a compiler works and how to design one. So for those of you who don't know, a compiler is a computer program that translates one programming language to another programming language. And I kind of failed at first, but I tried and read a bunch of books and looked at thousands of lines of code that other people wrote, and eventually I got it. And with these lessons, I was able to have a somewhat steady stream of goal completion for the next few terms. So, finally, where do I think that we're going in the future? So, we may not know it, or we may not want to admit it, but as the first graduating class and the first IL6 class at KLS, we have a huge responsibility on our shoulders. We like to, I know a lot of us like to think that building the high school is up to the staff, the administrators, and the teachers, but truthfully, it's as much up to us as it is to them. We are a small but growing community of innovators. And for instance, later tonight, we will be welcoming several students to KLS, several of whom will be incoming IL6. So what part do we play in all this? Well, friendship has been a common theme throughout my 13-year journey. And friendship is very important, especially during adolescence. And I can speak firsthand about the good qualities that it brings out in people. So I think that as IL5ers who are getting promoted to IL6 and we know the ropes of the school, it is our responsibility to build a community for IL6 and to make sure that basically we make friends with everybody. This may seem like a daunting task, and it may seem like we are not prepared to do this, but I have full confidence that we can do it. Thank you.